What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine coming to you live from the 412. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, find all of my work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. A busy 24-ish hours for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Really a busy week for the Steelers that is now coming to a close. Finally, we've got some news and notes to go over, including a big shout out to a Steelers Hall of Famer and, well, another quarterback off the board. Just before we jumped on this podcast, we're diving into where the Pittsburgh Steelers stand in that instance, what it means for them, possibly a former Steelers quarterback that's in the mix now, and if it changes their plans short-term or long-term, or gives them any sense of urgency. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders was in town yesterday. We've got plenty of updates from it, including one big-time comparison about the Pittsburgh Steelers and Shedeur Sanders, and two people that could be very close to the quarterback, well, in the future and in the past. We're diving into all that, plus more, what it means for Aaron Rodgers, maybe more on TJ Watt, and as always, we're answering all of your questions. So if you got them, make sure you toss them in the chat. Shout out to our super chatters. Shout out to our members. If you're not a member, you can become one by hitting the link in the description below. And maybe I got a new ad commercial to play that I kind of want your guys' opinion on. So when we get to it, let me know. With that said, we're going to start with the news and notes of the day. We'll start by giving a shout out to the one, the only, Terry Bradshaw, who became a local hero in the city of Pittsburgh once again. At 76 years old, Terry Bradshaw is not winning games on the football field. He's saving people from being trapped in airplanes for over a half hour, which you think not that long of a time and no big deal. If you have gone on any flight, the anxiety from the moment you show up at the airport until you get off the airplane and get your luggage, you know it's not fun. You sit there the entire time thinking one thing is going to go wrong and the whole day is going to get screwed up. That's what happens. You are a prisoner to the airlines and you never trust them. I hear it. I travel all the time. I am constantly, the moment I get out of my car and start walking towards the airport, thinking, this is going to go bad, dude. Something's going to go wrong. I'm going to get delayed. And I've been stuck on an airplane before. I flew back from Italy for our honeymoon and got stuck on the airplane for an hour and a half because they couldn't open the door. Terry Bradshaw said that ain't happening. He's coming to Pittsburgh from Dallas, Texas, pulls up in the airport or pulls up with the airline. Everybody goes to get off the plane here in Pittsburgh, and the door won't open. And Terry Bradshaw, after a half hour waiting, says, I'm done. It ain't happening. I will be the superhero I've always been for this city, and I'm going to do it one more time. He pries the door open or forces the door open. Some made it very clear they didn't think he was going to be able to do it. The captain gave him a shout-out without giving him a shout-out after the heroic act, and you just got to say, one big one. Clap it up for Terry Bradshaw because my man, even at 76 years old, retired from Fox Sports, has since done a tribute for Toby Keith, which I didn't even know Terry Bradshaw was that musically talented, now has a show coming to the Hard Rock Casino, and in the meantime is showing up to host a dinner for Mel Blount and the 50th anniversary of the Steelers winning their first Super Bowl with Terry Bradshaw. And when he gets here, he just decides, hey, I'm going to play superhero one last time for this city and for the people stuck on this airplane. So shout out to Terry Bradshaw. Shout out to everybody who was stuck there, who kept their cool, who acknowledged that, man, tough situation. Well, at least we got saved by Terry Bradshaw. That's a pretty cool story to go home and tell everybody else about, even in a pretty unideal morning or night or whenever it was for those passengers coming to the Steel City. Shout out to Terry Bradshaw. The other big news this morning, Joe Flacco off the board for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know many people were not hoping that he ended up in Pittsburgh, but it is a name that is now removed from the list. He signs a one-year deal to return to the Cleveland Browns in the AFC North. The last time he was in Cleveland, he led them to the playoffs. He replaced Deshaun Watson beautifully, and I think it was the redemption shot that he was looking for, that the Cleveland Browns were looking for. I mean, you got to remember the last time Flacco was here might be the reason that Kevin Stefanski still has a job. And I'm not saying Kevin Stefanski is a bad coach. What I'm saying is that Deshaun Watson put them in a really, really bad situation. And things were getting brutal. And Kevin Stefanski, with a then, I believe, 36-year-old quarterback, something like that, decided, well, we're going to go to the playoffs and look damn good in the process. And he did. Now he's back. Joe Flacco returns to the Cleveland Browns on a one-year deal, competes with Kenny Pickett. I wouldn't put it past the Cleveland Browns to say Joe Flacco's our guy. There's nothing about Kenny Pickett where we currently stand that in my eyes says he is a long-time starting quarterback in the NFL. And I don't think he was ever that guy. I think he had an opportunity in Pittsburgh. Once he was traded, I think the first-round label that you have to kind of lean into is gone. So he's in Cleveland as a guy that is a young option, but I don't think their best option. And Joe Flacco might be. To get surpassed by Joe Flacco, not the worst thing in the world at 37, 38 years old, however old he is. Nah, not the best thing in the world for Kenny Pickett, but it's a name off the board for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, two sides of this. I'm not worried about Joe Flacco. I don't think Joe Flacco turns the Cleveland Browns into a Super Bowl contender. I don't think he turns them into an AFC North contender. I don't think Joe Flacco is the reason that all of a sudden Myles Garrett and everybody else are thrilled and happy. I still think the door is open for a quarterback in the NFL draft, even Shedeur Sanders, who we'll talk about in a little while. But I do think it's a guy who last time he was here looked pretty impressive, and you do have to acknowledge that. For the Steelers, that is a big one off the board. I don't know how much interest they had in Joe Flacco, but I do know Joe Flacco was on some sort of list. Just like Carson Wentz is on some sort of list, just like Russell Wilson was on some sort of list, just like Justin Fields was on some sort of list, just like Daniel Jones was on some sort of list. It's another name that's gone as the Pittsburgh Steelers wait for Aaron Rodgers. And the more and the longer this lingers, the more you got to look at it and say, where are they going? How long are they waiting? Because Omar Khan made it very clear. And again, Joe Flacco is not the guy that moves the needle for anybody. But Joe Flacco is a name on a list that is shrinking quickly. And the Pittsburgh Steelers have made it known that if it's not Rodgers, they want another veteran. They want another guy in that room to add to Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson, and most likely a rookie. Joe Flacco seemed like an easy answer. He seemed like, okay, worst case scenario, you add Flacco. He's a quality backup, maybe worst case a third. And you feel pretty confident about a guy that if he has to step in for a game, can do something. If he needs to compete with Mason Rudolph, it's not great, but it's not, you're not going out there and getting Tyler Heineke and saying this guy's going to be our starting quarterback, or Desmond Ridder, and this guy's going to be our starting quarterback. Now we're hitting the point where those names are becoming more apparent. I get it. Tyler Heineke's in LA, but Desmond Ridder, all these other names that are floating around that nobody really wants, and maybe Desmond Ridder's on a roster somewhere, but I'm just using it as an example. We're hitting the point in the list, in the options, where every day that passes, every name that comes off, the Pittsburgh Steelers options are getting much smaller. Not smaller, much smaller. It's a significantly shorter list than it once was. Aaron Rodgers has shown no indication of turning things around. He's shown nothing that he's going to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They've taken their actions elsewhere, but at some point they are going to want a veteran. And I think every quarterback that comes off the board, the Pittsburgh Steelers look at and say, this is a guy that we needed to consider that is no longer available, which means that we are walking the line even closer to not having any reliable options left by the time Aaron Rodgers tells us, screw off, I'm going to Minnesota, which is a real possibility. We can't sit here and say, I spoke to somebody 2 days ago about the situation, and there was no update outside of the fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers think he's going to sign, but they have no idea. Nobody has any idea. And if Aaron Rodgers isn't going to sign names like Joe Flacco, who's next? Carson Wentz? Because the second Carson Wentz goes off the board, there's nobody left. There's nobody left who has the starting experience that you're looking for to say, we got to just throw darts against the wall and hope something works. Hope something sticks. That's what the Steelers are going to do. And I get it. Mason Rudolph's a decent backup plan. He's not the worst thing in the world. And that is the direction that they're going to go. But they made it abundantly clear that they are going to add another veteran. And the less options that you have, the more you're forced into doing something or considering something drastic, like going after Kirk Cousins, which I don't think is a good move for the Steelers. I think it's better than some moves, but I don't think it's a good move for the Steelers. And chances are you're going to have to give up something for a guy that you're taking a risk on instead of just signing somebody to a low-end one-year deal. That is where they're walking the line closer to. That is what this move says. It's not good. It is not good. Each name that comes off the board, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers get closer and closer to an absolutely terrible situation instead of just a bad situation. And Aaron Rodgers just keeps stringing them along, showing no indication that he's going to go one way or another. And I'm going to be honest, at some point we got to draw a line, and the Pittsburgh Steelers got to say, hey, look it, this is it. We can't wait anymore. We need an answer from you. You're not that guy, pal. You're not the dude that we could wait 7 months for, 6 months for, and say, okay, great. We're about to end week 5 of this. This is 5 weeks of Aaron Rodgers not giving an answer. Wild times. And with Joe Flacco off the board, you got to think that we're getting closer to the Pittsburgh Steelers drawing that line or waiting too long to the point where they're going to have to do something drastic if Aaron Rodgers says no, which is a possibility. And that drastic might be Kirk Cousins. That drastic might be a first-round quarterback that doesn't have a first-round evaluation on it. It might screw up the whole thing. It's getting bad. And again, the Steelers are confident he's going to sign, but nothing's certain. And the second that Minnesota says, JJ suffered a setback, JJ isn't here, JJ isn't that guy, the second that they wait to OTAs and say, all right, let's just do it, screw it, let's bring Aaron in. The second that he chooses to retire, it's all downhill. It gets way worse for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's where they're walking. Not good. Joe Flacco news, another negative for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I get it. Joe Flacco wasn't going to win a Super Bowl for the city of Pittsburgh. He just wasn't. But he's an option that pushes them closer to fewer options and maybe more drastic options, and neither of them are good news for the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right. Let's keep it trucking here. Let's talk Sheduer Sanders. There's a lot that came out yesterday in terms of Shedeur's official visit, what he did with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, he was in the city of Pittsburgh's airport, or the Pittsburgh International Airport, yesterday and did a bunch of interviews. I think that was pretty awesome, to be honest. I mean, I didn't take anything away from those interviews that felt too cocky or brash or arrogant or any of the bad words that have been tossed out about him. I took a lot of them and said, this is a pretty decent situation where he's being very open because he understands that everybody wants to know, and he acknowledges the spotlight. I thought the Ian Rappaport backstory, where Ian Rappaport talked about asking about his combine plans and Deion Sanders handing Sheduer the phone and saying, hey, talk to him yourself, and Sheduer giving him those plans. I thought that was awesome. Shows a lot of who Sheduer is. I think Shedeur's impressing me the more that this goes on. I'm not saying I wasn't impressed, but I understood the noise, the cameras, the lights, the talk that came with Sheduer Sanders. I understand that the family that he grew up in and the guy who is his dad / coach kind of steers him in the direction to call out a lot of these things, which some people take as arrogant and brash. Some people take as overly cocky. Some people take as confidence that you need as a quarterback, especially when you have the limelight on you the way that Sheduer Sanders does. I took yesterday away and said, pretty good. I was pretty impressed with a lot of things that came out of Sheduer Sanders' mouth. I was pretty impressed with the conversations that were had afterwards. Now, let's dive into some of them. This is a big one for me. And I thought it was very interesting when it comes to Sheduer Sanders, what he's looking for in a team, and how the Pittsburgh Steelers may be becoming more of that team for Shedeur Sanders. As we move on, maybe the Browns don't seem like that guy, that team. The Giants don't seem like that team. Vegas has some upside. I definitely agree. And I also think that teams like the Saints have upside and some fun when it comes to a new head coach and Kellen Moore. The Steelers, though, they're a team that have weapons. They're a team that have young weapons. They're a team that has a defense and a head coach. And his words on the head coach were important. He said this to Kay Adams on the Up and Adams show in the Pittsburgh International Airport, which I felt bad for him, to be honest, because I could tell, like I've been much lesser of a situation, but I've done, radio and videos and all that stuff from these types of places. And you could tell the look around, like, nobody catch on to what I'm talking about or who I am. I'm trying to stay hidden. And, it's tough. It is tough to, again, nobody's coming up to Noah Strackbine, but you get that you are drawing attention to yourself. And when it's that big, I mean, you got to give him credit for being able to stick that one out. Now, this is what he said about Mike Tomlin, and I thought it was very interesting. Quote, "I understand the mindset and why they win a lot, just how he is as a person, the values that the team has, and what he preaches from the top down is similar to my dad, Deion Sanders." Mike Tomlin and Deion, I don't think are the same head coach. I don't think have the same personality, but I do think that the way that they are no BS head coach who protect their players stands out quite a bit. And it made me start thinking, if Mike Tomlin resembles Deion Sanders and we're worried about the limelight and the spotlight being too big on Sheduer and the conversation being too big about Sheduer, maybe, just maybe, the head coach in Pittsburgh is the right guy to help him navigate that, because his head coach in college, which is his dad, helped him navigate it in a way that led him to a first-round pick and to continue to develop and to continue to have historic seasons. And maybe that's not the worst thing in the world. I think Sheduer is a real option for the Steelers, and because of that, you have to look at both the positive and the negative sides of it and say, these are the concerns. How do you fix the concerns? How do you address the concerns? I think Mike Tomlin being Mike Tomlin might just address a lot of these concerns. Might look at it and say, I could handle this, because Sheduer is not Antonio Brown or Le'Veon Bell or, I don't want to do this, but George Pickens. Sheduer is a guy who's got a lot of attention on him, who plays quarterback. He's a Cam Newton. That's who he is. And Cam Newton, by all accounts, was a great leader and a great quarterback. Won a lot of games. Was phenomenal. And I'm not comparing talent. I'm comparing personality and what comes around them. And if that's the case, maybe Mike Tomlin is the guy to be able to navigate that situation and keep it under wraps in the right way, because he's able to keep it under wraps when it comes to problems within the locker room. Maybe he could keep it under wraps when it comes to noise outside of the locker room and how to help his players move through it, how to help his team stay steady through it. I thought that was important. I thought that stood out to me. And if you're going to look for positives or ways to navigate the negatives when it comes to Sheduer Sanders, I'm not totally opposed to him drawing comparisons to the personality of Mike Tomlin and the way he goes about his business being the same as Deion Sanders, because Deion was able to tell Sheduer and help Sheduer get through all this while the spotlight was huge and growing. I mean, it's going to be the same in Pittsburgh, and you're going to want the same situation. Thought that was important. Here's the other one. This one's from Deion, that he said on a podcast that I thought stood out quite a bit. He said, quote, "The front offices are consistently, bad when they make not intelligent moves, when they find themselves in this place of picking early every year, and you have an opportunity to provoke change, and you don't when that opportunity is laying right there before you." This was in reference to Sheduer going to a team that constantly picks in the top 10, the Browns, the Giants, versus a team like the Steelers who doesn't. And you got to start to wonder if the Sanders family is somewhat open to the idea of Pittsburgh. and sees the upside in that situation. And I think a guy like Shedeur is smart enough too, where he obviously wants to go number 2. He wants to go number 1. I mean, that's just the competitive nature of the situation. But at the same time, understands that you come to Pittsburgh, you're already a playoff team. You're already a team that's winning 10 games, whether you're there or not, because they'd win 10 games with Mason Rudolph. You come there, you got a lot more upside in front of you. You have the possibility to grow and start off here instead of here. That might be pretty big. And maybe Deion's just voicing his opinion on the matter because that's what he does and pushing that narrative just a little bit more. I think it's something to watch. I think it's something to monitor because as we get closer, the Steelers are a real team. And I don't think the Steelers are going to do anything crazy and trade up for him. And I could be wrong there, but I don't think that's going to happen. What I do think is that Shedeur understands that his possibilities are all over the board. Deion understands that Shedeur's possibilities are all over the board. And they're somewhat open to the idea of the Pittsburgh Steelers being the spot that Shedeur goes to, because it's not about what happens today. It's about what happens 5 years from now. And in 5 years, there are a lot more possibilities, a lot bigger upside for the Pittsburgh Steelers than there is a team like the Cleveland Browns or the New York Giants. Maybe, I don't know about the New Orleans Saints. They seem to be all over the board. But those are the 4 teams that seem to be in on Shedeur right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Sanders are opening up to Pittsburgh being that team. I have no idea how the meeting went outside of what Shedeur said, which was a 10 out of 10. Heard it was great. I don't know. I'm not in those walls. And to be honest with you, it's hard to get information from those walls because it's real small who sits in those rooms with Shedeur Sanders and Mike Tomlin. And there's not much of a, you're not sitting down. It's not John Gruden's quarterback room. It's get to know each other, have conversations. You're spending 2 hours here. What can we talk about? How do we get to know you the best? It's an expansion from the NFL Combine meeting to sit down and really nail in everything you want to know about that prospect before they head out of here. I believe it was good. I think the quotes from Shedeur, the sense from Shedeur, and the quote from Deion Sanders kind of gets your brain spinning about whether or not the Pittsburgh Steelers are higher on their list than they once were when this draft cycle started. All right, let's finish it off with this one. This is about the Steelers and potentially Sheduer Sanders and causing a rift between the one guy who we started talking about on this show when we first started going, and that is Aaron Rodgers. And I know nobody wants to hear about Aaron Rodgers anymore. I know we're tired of it. I know that Joe Flacco coming off the board only kind of pisses everybody off a little bit more, even if you weren't about Joe Flacco, because you're just looking at it going, everybody else is getting quarterbacks, but the Pittsburgh Steelers, what are we doing? I hear you. Well, according to Mike Florio, this is why they're waiting. Quote, I think that it's a bigger issue, and it's going to be more like this. What if we determine halfway through the season that this just isn't the year for the Steelers to do anything significant? Okay, let's find out what the young guy has. So I think you introduce a potential awkwardness. I don't think he wants to go into a situation where there's going to be a chance. He is referencing the fact that Aaron Rodgers is now holding out because he does not want the Pittsburgh Steelers to draft a quarterback. And if they do draft one in the first round, that he may not sign with them. My response is this. That might be true. You could find yourself in a Kirk Cousins situation. But at the end of the day, the Steelers need to protect themselves, and that should not change. They should not look at this any differently and say, oh, well, we have to make sure that Aaron's comfortable. No. Sheduer Sanders is there at 21 and he's your guy. You take him. That's what you do. You don't even think twice about it. You don't care about Aaron Rodgers. At that point, you've got your guy. And you could go through a year of struggle with Sheduer Sanders or whoever and figure it out from there. And that's much more okay than pleading to a dude who's hung you on a string for the last 5 weeks. No questions asked. Aaron Rodgers, in my head, is losing value in Pittsburgh by the second. And every day that passes, you have to care less and less about what's holding him back. Like there are questions constantly. Should the Steelers offer him a bigger contract just to kind of push it over the edge? No, they should not. They should not abide by the rules of somebody who clearly does not want to be here. That's what they shouldn't do. And when it comes to the NFL draft, it's the same way. It makes way more sense for you to go get a first-round quarterback than it does to sign Aaron Rodgers. It just does. And I don't think that you're finding a franchise quarterback in this year's draft and that your chances of doing so next year are significantly higher. But if that's the way that you're thinking, is it's between these two, and Aaron's saying, I'm not coming if you're drafting, who cares? Let him walk. Let him wait for Minnesota. Let him go retire. Doesn't matter. At this point, I think Aaron Rodgers could be a very valuable asset to the Steelers as a mentor. But I also don't think that you change anything if he's holding back because he doesn't want to be that mentor. I think that all this is just building up the snowball effect. And again, you do not change your plans for Aaron. If Sheduer is your guy, which he's going to be the guy for the next couple of weeks, until they bring in a Jalen Milroe, until they bring in somebody else that's bigger or has just as loud of a name, that's going to be the case. It is going to be Shedeur Sanders to the Steelers at 21. It'll be all the talk of the town, whether it happens or not. Aaron's going to hear all of it, and nobody should be changing anything for Aaron Rodgers where we sit right now. Whether he signs or not, shouldn't change your draft plans, even in the slightest, because the second that it does, you have now put yourself in a deeper hole to say, okay, now we're screwed. You know, the Steelers should look at it and say, what was our draft plans if we completely eliminated Aaron Rodgers? If we completely remove the quarterback situation as a whole, what is our draft plans? Is it Shedeur Sanders at 21? Is it Kenneth Grant at 21? Is it Matthew Golden at 21? Is it Nicky Muware at 21? If it's any of those guys, it should remain those guys. Nothing should change because, well, it doesn't matter. If you go into the season with Aaron Rodgers or Mason Rudolph, it's not the ideal situation either way. Don't hold yourself back from a guy that you believe in because you do not know how a guy that is not on your team, who has strung you along for 5 weeks, is going to react. All right. With that said, it's time to dive into all of your questions. But first, I want you guys to check out a little something that I put together and give me your thoughts on it.
Pittsburgh, this one's for you. From the voices behind all Steelers talk comes Black and Gold apparel, your go-to for bold, fan-driven merch that reps the city, the Steelers, and everything in between. Whether you bleed black and gold or just love that Pittsburgh grit, we've got something for you. It's more than a podcast. It's a community. And thanks to your support, we're proud to bring the passion from our mics to your closets. Gear up, stand out, and show the world what real fans look like. Shop now at blackandgoldapparel.myshopify.com.
I hope you guys liked it. Shout out to anybody who has supported Black and Gold Apparel. You can find us at blackandgoldapparel.myshopify.com or in the store tab on our YouTube page. Got a lot of new merch, including Chris Boswell and DK Metcalf merch that just dropped this week. So shout out, much more coming. Appreciate you guys as always. All right. With that said, going to dive into all your questions. If you've got them, toss them in the chat. We'll get to as many of them as I can before I head out of here. Shout out to our super chatters. Shout out to our members. With that said, let's get it rocking. First, shout out to Rec7 for becoming a new member. Can't tell you how much I appreciate it. As always, shout out to all you guys, and to Knock for gifting 5 All Steelers Talk memberships. As always, absolute stud. Cannot tell you how much I appreciate you. Thank you for being awesome, as always. All right, let's dive into it. Smooty Booty here. Today is my last episode of All Steelers Talk before I leave for Navy boot camp on Tuesday. Thanks for being the best source of news for a young Steelers fan living in Eastern Pennsylvania. From the bottom of my heart, here we go, Steelers. I want to say this. First off, you got every one of us behind you. Go kick some ass. Go have a great time. Thank you for doing what you're doing. And thank you, too, for supporting us and now allowing us to support you. We got your back, and I'm super pumped to one day have your name pop up in this chat and get an update on where Smooty Booty is in Navy boot camp. Again, go kick some ass. Very, very appreciative of you and rooting you on every single step of the way. So shout out to you. Go kill it. I do want to know what part of Eastern Pennsylvania you're from, because I'm also from NEPA. So that would be pretty awesome. All right, let's keep it going here. James Farrow. Hey, Noah, just curious. What is the next phrase after Stairway to Seven? This is a good question. Good question. What is it after Stairway to Seven? I don't know. What rhymes with 8? What could even be eyeing up 8? That's terrible. That's not good. Stairway to Seven was pretty classic. Let's toss this one out here right now. And I'm going to put it in the community page as well as we sit here currently. What is the next catchphrase after Stairway to Seven? Where do you go from here? Eyeing up 8 sucks. So let's not do that one. I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to think about it. We're going to toss it in the community page. I want answers. Let's see what we do it. All right, let's see what we could come up with. Great question, James. Shout out to Stephen Cornfield. Shout out to Smooty. I got fam in the service. Thank you 100%, dude. Smooty Booty, thank you. We can't thank you enough, to be honest with you. And just like Steven said, man, we all got your back. The AST fam is here, and we got you, and we're super excited to root you on. So thank you for your service. Thank you for everything that you do. Rex 7 here. If the veteran we bring in is only going to be here to mentor and usher the rookie, why wouldn't we just stick with Mason? I know he's not Aaron, but we do need a vet at the level do we need a vet of that level just to mentor? So the Steelers don't view Aaron Rodgers as just a mentor. They view him as their best solution to win a Super Bowl in 2025. That's how they view Aaron Rodgers is, hey, Aaron could come in right now, secure us a championship, but give us a shot at a championship. Let's not get carried away. Give them a shot at a championship and at the same time provide mentorship. I don't think they view Mason Rudolph in that same light. They're comfortable with Mason Rudolph being the guy, but they still want another veteran to compete. They still want another veteran to be a backup. And that hasn't changed. I mean, Omar said it to us at the NFL League meetings that if it's not Aaron, you can guess that another veteran is going to come to Pittsburgh, whether it's free agency or a trade or wherever. I think that Mason's the guy if it doesn't turn out to be Aaron, unless they go with the Shedeur Sanders in the first round. But I do think it's going to be Aaron, or I do think it's going to be Mason. I think Mason's a fantastic vet to have behind a veteran. I think Aaron is too. You know, you've heard great things about Aaron Rodgers throughout his career and the way that he works with teammates, especially young quarterbacks. I got nothing to pull me back and say Aaron would suck as a mentor. But at the same time, I do think that Mason would be the guy, provides a bunch of professionalism, was a great help to Kenny Pickett. I don't think that would change. I think it just, in their eyes, in the Steelers' eyes, Aaron gives them a shot at a Super Bowl. He's the only one left that gives them a shot at a Super Bowl this year. I don't know if I agree with that, but that is their way of thinking, and that is why they're looking for a veteran of that caliber to play that role. Steeler Lee, I've heard so much that Shedur doesn't fit Arthur Smith's scheme. Isn't the mark of a great OC. Thank you very much. To tailor your system around the best talents of your quarterback and not pigeonhole him into things he can't do. Steeler Lee, you hit it right on the head. And I am going to be 100% honest with you guys. Arthur Smith would tell you the same exact thing. He would not sit there and say, Shedur doesn't fit my offense. He'd say, this is a young quarterback who's got tons of talent, who I will cater an offense to. That is what he's going to do. I don't think he's had a quarterback since Ryan Tannehill that is capable of tailoring an offense to, except for Justin Fields, and he didn't have time to do that. And I still think he did a pretty decent job with Justin because the Steelers didn't want Justin to lose them games. And in the second half of those games, he adjusted offenses to say, hey, go do these things better. And Justin did them. With Russ, it was Russ is a one-trick pony, and you had one option. Throw it deep. That was it. I think Arthur Smith is a good OC in the long term. And I'm not totally sold he's going to work out in Pittsburgh, but I am going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he's proven to us in the past that he can build a successful offense. And good OCs, like you said, Steeler Lee, tailor their offense to the players around him, to the quarterback, to the wide receivers, to the offensive line. to the running back. How do you go about it? And I have full faith that Shedeur would be walking into a situation that is much better than what Kenny Pickett walked into at Matt Canada, where it's, hey, run my offense. If you can't, sucks for you. Arthur Smith's going to develop this thing to say, here's my quarterback. Let's see if we could put an offense around him that works for him. Pittsburgh Hornets, cheers to Smoody, going to booty camp. That was awesome. That was awesome. Shout out Smoody Booty. I'm going to keep saying it throughout this entire show. Dominique, thanks for answering my locker room guy questions, bro. Who do you listen to about the draft? Would love to send my spreadsheet your way. Oh, definitely send your spreadsheet my way if you haven't already. You got the email, so send it there, and I'll definitely check it out. I appreciate you. When it comes to who do I listen for the draft, I'm a big Todd McShay guy. I think that he does a lot of really good deep dives. I read The Beast, which is, fantastic. But I have, to be honest with you, I watch a lot of podcasts and listen to a lot of podcasts, just like anybody. I'm a big like Dane Brugler, who writes The Beast, was on the Rich Eisen show talking to Tom Pelissero the other day. I watched that whole interview because that's, to me, that's somebody asking the questions, and I enjoy that. But I'm a big, talk to guys. There are certain people in the NFL journalism world who are the Dane Bruglers, who are the Derek Bells, and they spend their entire lives diving into draft talk or diving into the NFL draft. And I generate a lot of my knowledge from having conversations with them and then taking that conversation and being able to dive deeper into it. To say, hey, Nick Fairbaugh was on here the other day saying Matthew Golden is his top wide receiver outside of Travis Hunter. All right, great. Well, you want to know what I've done for the last 2 days is watch Matthew Golden because I want to understand why he feels that way. So I do a lot of that. I have a lot of that conversation. Luckily, there's a lot of people in the NFL world that dive into draft stuff, but The Beast is my go-to always. Todd McShay's, I think it might just be the Todd McShay Show on Substack, or The Ringer, excuse me. He's fantastic as well. And then anything that comes out where somebody's interviewing Mike Mayock or any of these guys, I'm always all in on and I have a good time with. Terry, do you think the Steelers trade up for Sanders if he falls and take a running back next? I don't think they'd have to trade up. If they'd have to trade up, they have to go to 8, which is, I think, a little bit out of their range of where they're looking to trade up. I don't see them being a team that is looking to move up. What would that be? 12 spots, 13 spots to go get Shedeur Sanders. That's just, in my head, not what they're thinking currently. If he falls past 9, which is the New Orleans Saints, they just kind of have to monitor the situation. They'll hear rumbles. Are the Cleveland Browns trading up? Are the New York Giants trading up? Is that what's happening? Are there phone calls going around? Omar Khan will be on the phone constantly. Hey, who are you getting phone calls from? Blah, blah, blah. Do we have to move up to here? What's it going to cost? It will be chaos for those 11 picks. But there's nobody in between that gap of the New Orleans Saints and the Pittsburgh Steelers that would select a quarterback. So you're just kind of fighting off the Browns and the Giants to make sure that and maybe the Saints again, to make sure that you can get that quarterback. If everything goes as planned, they wouldn't have to move up after he falls to 9 or past 9, and he should go to 21 with ease, and they'd be able to take him if they feel they want to. I don't know if he's first on their list. I do imagine he's pretty high. Taking a running back next, I'm all about that. I think the 3rd round is the best spot for running backs in this draft. You can get a stud if the board falls your way. I don't know who's going to be there, but I would imagine it's going to be somebody, at least one big name left. And honestly, if it's a Damian Martinez who's becoming my guy to watch for the Steelers right now, I'd be okay with that too. I would be. I get it's a reach, but I wouldn't be too opposed for it. I do think running back is their 2nd round pick. Quarterback, running back would be, I don't think it'd be ideal to be honest with you, but I do think it's in the realm of possibilities for the Steelers. Roger Steeler, let's be great. Get that 8. I like that one a lot. I actually like, see, this is what I'm saying. My brain isn't going to put it together that quickly. Let's be great. Get that 8. That's fantastic. I'm excited to hear the rest of them. I'll go through the regular comments here and see what else I can find, but that's a good one. And then we will definitely toss it on the community page. I want to know what we're putting out there the second the Steelers win a Super Bowl and walk away with number 8 or number 7. Smooty Booty once again. Oh, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Shout out. You're right in the middle. I'm from Scranton. We're in Pittsburgh. Lancaster. I mean, I love Lancaster, to be honest with you. I try to go camping up there at least twice a year. Once again, shout out Smooty Booty. My dude. Broderick Wallace, the run defense was terrible at the end of last season. Why are we talking about quarterback in the first round? D-line is more important right now, in my opinion. I agree 1,000%. That is why Kenneth Grant is my guy in the first round, because he is a run-stuffing defensive tackle. You could play him at nose. You could play him at 3-tech. Either way, he is not going to let you go by him. That has been the case for the Steelers for the last 3 years. It is not new. They've not been able to. They've been a roller coaster ride on run defense. And everybody tries to chalk up, like, what's the issue? What's the issue? Maybe it's the fact that Larry O wasn't built for that. That Keanu Benton isn't the guy that should be playing nose tackle. Maybe that's the case here. And I think Kenneth Grant, Derek Harmon, Walter Nolan is less of a run stuffer, but those two guys provide instant boost in the run defense. That is exactly why, if you asked me today, and if you asked me a month ago, who's my favorite pick for the Steelers in the first round, it's Kenneth Grant, and it remains Kenneth Grant. I think that dude, if he had like just a sliver of great pass defense stats or pass rush stats, he would be a top 12 pick in the draft with ease, fighting with Mason Graham for how good he is. I really truly think that. And I think Kenneth Grant's got the ability to develop into a great pass rusher. So that's why he's my guy. But I agree with you 100%, Broderick. Run defense has been weak, and you need it to get better. And this is how you make it better. Stephen Cornfield, the grade 8. That's another good one. That's another great and 8. That's what we're starting to be. It's what we're starting to pick up on here. Shout out the grade 8. Let's be great. Get that 8. I'm a big fan of both of them. ND Joe, Firemute said he has full confidence in Mason. There has to be others in the locker room as well. The quarterback they draft needs to be Mason's replacement, not the next franchise quarterback. Save that for next year. Shout out to Smooty. 100%. I'm loving that the AST family is giving love to Smooty Booty right now, because very well deserved, and just shows how awesome this community actually is. When it comes to having full faith in Mason Rudolph and finding his replacement, the whole locker room has faith in Mason Rudolph. They love Mason Rudolph. They loved Mason Rudolph when he was here. But I think the second you bring Aaron Rodgers into the conversation, things change. They change a lot, to be honest. So I'm okay with Mason Rudolph. I think the Steelers are okay with Mason Rudolph, but they understand the upgrade that you'd get and the potential that rises with Aaron Rodgers. They understand that. The quarterback, again, in an ideal world for me, Jalen Milroe falls to the third round and becomes the guy that you can develop next year or within the year to compete in a year or two with your next franchise quarterback hopeful. That's the ideal situation for me. And then you're not even getting rid of Mason. You're keeping Mason for another year. You're working with another rookie. You have Jalen Milroe, and you're fine. I think that's the ideal situation for me when it comes to a Steelers quarterback situation. I think the Steelers have complete confidence in Mason Rudolph. They've made it very clear. They've always made it very clear that they have complete confidence in Mason Rudolph. And I think Mason can win you 9 games, 10 games. I really do. I don't think he's a bad quarterback. I don't think he gives you a shot to beat Mahomes or Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson in the playoffs, but I do think he'll get you to the playoffs. That's what the Steelers are looking for. Great. But I don't think that's what everybody else is really looking for. I think they understand Aaron raises the ceiling a little bit. Maybe he doesn't, but I think he does. I think they believe he does a little bit. And I think next year you go after your franchise quarterback. I agree. There are too many options next year, bigger options. I'm all for what could be a year from now. Egyptian Roughneck, shout out to Smoody Booty. Good luck, brother. Kick ass. But remember, Rangers lead the way, and Noah need a date to set for tea time. Shout out to everybody shouting out Smoody Booty, and shout out to Smoody Booty. Hope you're loving this one as much as I am. And we need a date for a tea time. I got, all right, so let me run through the chaos that is my life for the next 2 months, and then we will go from there 100%. And don't get me wrong, very blessed to have this chaos, but we're going, got to drive the wife up to meet my mom and my sister because they're heading to the in-laws bachelorette party this weekend, tonight, I guess, this afternoon, in 2 hours. From there, we got draft prep for the next 3 weeks, which is chaos. Back in Pittsburgh on Monday, Tuesday, something like that. After the draft, got sister-in-law's med school graduation, which is complete chaos. There is this event in my hometown called St. Ubaldo Day, which is the greatest day of all time. Google it. It's fantastic. If you just Google it, that's all I can say. It's the greatest day of all time. It's just awesome. Up there, that's 3 days. Come back next weekend, brother's bachelor party, going there. Come back after that. Oh, in the midst of this, rookie minicamp, and OTAs and minicamp itself. Go back, come back the next weekend to Jessup, brother's wedding. Come back to Pittsburgh next weekend, 1st year anniversary or 1 year anniversary with the wife. We're going to New York, and then after that, we're golfing. So I'll keep you posted. I appreciate you, my man. We should set up something. Shoot me an email. Let's set something up. Artisanal Bully Kennel. What's your opinion on Tuasivi Namura from Fresno? He's Troy 2.0, the big hair Samoan, a heat-seeking missile, and could be a sleeper late round pick. To be honest with you, I'm not totally familiar with his game, but I'm loving the description of who he is, and I will add him to my list of players that I do have to check out. I think the Steelers could be in on a safety towards the middle to late round of the NFL draft. I think that's the prime spot for them. They've shown interest in safety. They've shown interest in mid to late round safeties. I think it makes a lot of sense to have that guy that in a year can replace Juan Thornhill, and for right now could battle with Beanie Bishop and Brandon Eccles for that slot position, can play special teams. I think that's exactly what the Steelers need and are looking for. I wouldn't rule them out in those 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round picks to go after a safety, especially with Ryan Watts kind of being an unknown and not being able to, are we not knowing if he's definitely going to come back from that neck injury and neck surgery and when he would come back. So I like this. I will look into this. I will give you a better answer next time, but I do think that the Pittsburgh Steelers could be looking into a safety in the middle to late rounds of the NFL draft, and I think it makes a ton of sense for them. Dominic, where do I find the email again? Once you become a member, it should be on the membership page. It'll give you all the instructions and stuff with the phone number and the email and all that stuff. So it should be in there. And if it's not, reach out to me on social media somewhere. Not Instagram. I don't go on Instagram. And we'll figure it out for sure. Stephen Cornfield, don't hate the 8. Have a great weekend, everybody. That was a phenomenal one, too. I'm loving these. Shout out to everybody who's got them. All right, let's keep this trucking. We're going up. Appreciate all of you. Nate Moore, Sheduer in Pittsburgh would change the culture for sure. Not sure if for better or worse, though. I do think it would bring a bit of a cocky quarterback situation to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But to be honest with you, Ben was cocky when he got here. He was brash when he got here, and it worked out totally fine. I think you need to be cocky as a quarterback. I think you need to have the confidence level that you can do anything you want. I think it's overblown a little bit. And I think his attitude style, not his attitude style is different from the every down quarterback, everyday quarterback. I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm kind of turning around the attitude stuff, the lights that come with Shedeur Sanders. He's doing a good job of convincing me that it's not going to be a problem. I don't know if it will be, but he's doing a good job of turning me into a believer that it won't be. Chris, if Rodgers is a bust and we aren't sold on Sanders, we should seriously consider going all in to get the number 1 pick for Cam Ward. Might have no choice. So I jokingly, in the midst of a couple of brews at the NFL league meeting, they always throw this big party. It is a great time. Food is unbelievable. Was there, jokingly towards the end of the night, I'm talking to just some people and I toss it out there, I'm just like, you think there's any chance the Titans would ever give up the first pick? And the clear-cut answer was no chance. And I think it's very clear why. Brian Callahan's job's on the line already. And he needs a quarterback, because what buys you more time in the NFL as a head coach than a quarterback? I don't think they'd have. Plus, you'd give up everything for Cam Ward. You'd be going this year's first, next year's first, probably the first after that, plus back picks, second, third rounders. You'd be giving up, I think, a little bit too much, in my opinion, to go get a Cam Ward. I think there are options next year. I think there's an option this year. I don't think it's great. The Steelers aren't in an ideal situation, but it could be worse. You could be the Browns, who stink and are trying to decide if Shedeur Sanders is the 2nd pick in the draft instead of the 21st, which is, much better place to be in, I think. Roger Steeler, typo. Oh, hypo Q, GP, TJ, and 2 firsts. Oh, hypothetical question. George Pickens, I got it. I'm here. Don't even worry about it. Hypothetical question. George Pickens, TJ Watt, 2 firsts to Buffalo for Josh Allen. Would I do it? Oh, man. That's a tough question. Because if I say yes, somebody's going to aggregate it and be like, Steelers Insider says Steelers should trade TJ Watt and George Pickens to Buffalo for Josh Allen. But yes, you pull that trade off. You don't even think about it. I think I'm giving up 1 first. George Pickens, TJ Watt, and a first for Josh Allen and some. I want Josh Allen in a 2nd. I don't think you have to give up all that to get Josh Allen, to be honest. I think you'd really have to sweeten the pot, but I think you can make it happen. I would say yes. Man. I'd feel bad. I like TJ. I think George is a great trade asset, so that one works. But I think TJ should retire a Steeler. But you don't pass on Josh Allen. You just don't. You just make that work. If that opportunity presents itself to you, you go get the MVP of the league every single time. Every single time. With 2 firsts and TJ, get Cam Ward for us. Potentially. It'd have potential to get there. It would. Maybe you'd have to sweeten the pot a little bit more, but I think that's a conversation. I do. I don't think I'm giving up TJ Watt for Cam Ward, though. There's a difference between Josh Allen and Cam Ward. I mean, Josh Allen is proven. He's the 2nd, 3rd best quarterback in the NFL. Cam Ward is a guy that's coming in here in a bad draft class with quarterbacks, and I still think he's a top 3 quarterback, maybe top 4 quarterback in last year's draft. He sits probably before or after Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Drake May. But I still also think that I'm not giving all that up. I wouldn't give all that up to go get Drake May. I just wouldn't. I mean, today I probably would, because you saw what was coming, or you know what's coming. But an unknown, I think that's a risky game to be playing. Risky game to be playing to go get a 1st pick in the draft and give up TJ Ward in the process. Madeline, how much longer should the Steelers let the Aaron Rodgers saga go? Honestly, start young and call it a day. The drama already is too much. It is. It's hitting a ridiculous point. It's been hitting a ridiculous point. There is nothing in my eyes that justifies what is happening and how long this is taking. I don't think there's anything that justifies it in anybody's eyes for how long this is taking. But it's where the Steelers are. It's what they have let themselves get into. And it doesn't look good. How much longer will it go on? Oh, man. I don't know. I think it could go on till the draft, which would be almost 2 months, over 2 months. That's insane. That's insanity. But that's where the Steelers are. I agree. I think it's ridiculous. Pittsburgh Hornets, Shedeur seemed very excited to be in Pittsburgh, unlike Rodgers, from what I noticed. Do you see Shedeur being more of a volunteer and Rodgers being more of a hostage? I do. I do. I do. I have such a hard time viewing this from a positive light of Aaron Rodgers anymore. I really do. It's crazy. Like, it's all faded. And I tried so hard to hold on. I did. And it's just where we're at now. Like, there's just no justification for how long this is taking and why there is no answers. Yeah. I wish I did know. If Rodgers actually wants to be in Pittsburgh and there is like some actual reason holding him back. But for right now, Shedeur seems excited. Rodgers doesn't. And I'm flipping the switch a little bit to say I might be Team Shedeur just slightly. Just slightly. I still think that I'm Kenneth Grant all the way, but just slightly becoming a Shedeur fan. We need TJ unless Steelers have discovered a player in this year's draft to be our next outside linebacker star. I agree. I don't look at TJ Watt as a guy that is anywhere close to replaceable. You know, like people were talking Myles Garrett and could you get rid of him and how far back the Browns go? That's the Steelers. You know, the Steelers you don't replace TJ Watt and stay 10-7. You don't. You drop to 7-9. That's what you do. 6-10. Even if you have Aaron Rodgers, you lose TJ Watt, who wins you games, constantly wins you games. I don't think you could replace him. Are we sure the insiders don't want a veteran? Realistically, no shot at Joe Flacco or Kirk is better option than that. Dart or Milrow. It's just I'm just coming from Omar Khan. That's where my information's coming from with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He said it very clearly at the NFL league meetings that his exact words were, you could bet another veteran will be here if Aaron Rodgers is not. Those were his words. So I look at it and say, Omar wants, it doesn't make sense to me. I would have rocked with Mason Rudolph and a rookie and Skylar Thompson. I would have brought in some real low budget somebody somewhere to fill that third spot. But I'm going off of what Omar Khan said, 100%. Fought it back here. Why are we listening to what they say? They've shown in the past they'll say one thing and do another. Yeah, but you still can't. You have to go off of what Omar Khan in those some situations you could tell it's BS. In some situations you could tell that you're there and they're cooperating with you, and you have to be there to understand that situation. But I didn't take it as like Omar's just kind of brushing this off. I didn't. I took it as Omar's being genuine and giving us information that we need, and that's what they do. The NFL league meetings is different than a Mike Tomlin Tuesday. It's 100% different, and I think that I think in some levels you have to say Mike Tomlin's lying, and in some situations you have to say Omar Khan doesn't really have a track record of lying, and at the same time, in that environment is looking to help us more than hurt us. Why do we need an answer from Rodgers if we are comfortable with Mason at quarterback 1? I don't know if the Steelers are truly comfortable with Mason Rudolph as quarterback 1. I'm guessing, but I'm not 100% sold that that's actually the case. I think he's their best option available, but again, just the way that they're talking kind of makes it sound like, yeah, Mason's here. He's great. But we also understand that we need competition for Mason, that Mason was signed to be a backup and a backup plan. And it's not like super ideal for the Steelers. Knock, what's up? No, sorry, I missed the show. Been busy as heck with work. Hey, shout out to everybody who's grinding out there. We appreciate you. Still working through here. Got to make sure that we answer everybody who's tossing comments. Pittsburgh Hornets, if Rodgers is holding out to see if they draft a quarterback, then he should move on if he doesn't feel confident beating a rookie. If that's the case, he doesn't belong here. What are your thoughts? I mean, I think anything that is holding Aaron Rodgers back right now is ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense to me. It ruins his value within the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's a good mentor because he has the confidence to beat a rookie. I think that holds true. But I also think that at this point, anybody's just throwing anything against the wall and trying really, really hard to explain why Aaron isn't in Pittsburgh. And this is like the latest one. So I think you have to take it that way as well. I think it goes both ways. No, weren't you in on drafting Kenny Pickett and his development? Why are you so against any quarterback now, but showed him belief? He was worse than they are. I think it's because I learned from the mistake. I do. I think I looked at it and said the Steelers need a quarterback. There's only one way to find a quarterback, and that is to draft a quarterback. Kenny was a guy that had a decent floor. Learned quickly that that floor wasn't high enough to be an NFL starter. I did have a lot of faith in Kenny Pickett. I again learned from the mistakes. That's all you could do. You know, you got to look at the situation and say, don't repeat it. And that's how I view the Kenny situation compared to this situation. Noah, how does McShay have us mocked to take Nicky Muwari in the first? No way we'd grab a safety in the first, right? The Steelers brought Nicky Muwari in for a pre-draft visit. So there's definitely some interest there. I think the Steelers are looking at it going, if there's a best player available that's clearly the best player available in the first round, they're going to take him. Nick's on the board. I truly believe that. I think Malachi Starks is on the board as well. I think a name like Omarion Hampton's on the board as well. It's not top of their list, but I do think that all of these very random players are possibilities for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Shout out to everybody who shout out the ad. Appreciate it. Definitely appreciate you guys. No, will you be at the draft? I will not be at the draft. The Steelers, so the way being, a beat writer works on draft night is you go to the Steelers facility, which, you're outside the war room, you're hanging out there throughout the entire draft. That way, once a player is selected, you get to talk to that player through a through a conference call right after the pick, which is awesome. And then Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan talk the first night of the draft to the local media. And then the next days, as players are drafted, you're talking to them in a conference call, and then with it's just you guys in the room on a speakerphone, and the players talking on the other side of it. It's not like national or anything. It's just the local guys. And then the position coach say they drafted a quarterback in the third round. Tom Arth would come out and talk to us in a press conference style immediately after the pick. So we don't we don't go to the draft. We get all the insight and all the press conference and stuff from there. Plus, they feed us great food. So, the diet gone in 3 days. No questions asked. Roger Steeler, if Roger signed first day of free agency, then Mason wouldn't be in Pittsburgh. Your thoughts? I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true. I think Mason would still be here. I still think they'd be looking for a veteran backup, because I don't think they view a rookie in the third or fourth round as a guarantee. And I think they're comfortable if Mason has to be the third. So I don't think that'd be true. I'd take Aaron Rodgers signing 5 weeks ago over this, I think anybody would, because either way, it's most likely that he's going to sign with the Steelers. And you are 100% looking at it going, if this ended 5 weeks ago, there is no chaos. Nobody has such harsh feelings against Aaron Rodgers. And if it happens in 3 weeks, I think 90% of the fan base wants him gone. So I think that side of it, but I do think Mason Rudolph would still be here. Potentially as a third, but he would still be here. Got a couple of name selections. The grade 8, nothing better. That's a good one too. Elevate to 8. I like that one as well. Great stuff. 8 me. Ain't bad as well. All right, making sure I don't miss anybody as we round out this crazy week of news for the Pittsburgh Steelers. A situation where you trade Watt to the Giants for a first and get Abdul Carter. I mean, that would be awesome. I don't think they do it. That's the other side of the situation where you have to look at it and say, not everybody's going to sit here and go, yeah, we'll take TJ when they could take Abdul Carter. Broderick Wallace following up my question yesterday regarding outside linebacker depth. Do you expect Nick Herbig to develop into a 3-down backer? I do. I think he's got the potential to be. I don't think he is right now. I think that's important to acknowledge. But I also think that today and the end of year 3 are two totally different spots for Nick Herbig. Like, this is a big year for him to develop into that. I think he's got the best mentors he could have in TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. I think Nick Herbig's got starting potential. Potential being a big word here. I think he could be that guy. I wouldn't rule out him ever being that guy. I don't think he's that guy today, but he's got explosiveness. He's able to use his strength way more than I anticipated he would be. And I would imagine every year he gets stronger. He learns how to put on muscle better in the NFL. And eventually he's going to hit that spot. I mean, go look at TJ as a rookie compared to TJ 4 years in. He's a totally different human being. He's a scarier human being. I think Herbig's got the potential to add that weight and put on that muscle and build that strength. And if he could get that side of it done, he's got the finesse. Like, he's got the moves. He's got the speed. He's got the reaction time. All that's there. You got to be able to rush 3 downs and not always use your finesse. And I think that I do think he's taken a step towards that. I hope he's taken a step towards that. I'm not out. I think Nick Herbig's got development left, and I think he does have 3 down potential for sure. All right. Let's find a good one to finish it off here with. A lot of Arch Manning questions. Oh, here's a good one. We won't end it with this one, but I do want to answer this one. Have a question. Why did Deon Walker fall so much, and what's your take on him? 6'7" defensive tackle, plays rough and tough. I want Steelers to draft him. Your thoughts? I think it's hard. Like, there's nothing on his tape that tells you he should be dropping, but from what I've heard, and this is, I do not cover Kentucky football, so I have no idea, but I've heard that his mentality is not something that teams were turned on by. Instead, they were turned off by it, that they feel he doesn't have the grit that you kind of need to play defensive tackle at a high level in the NFL. I think that was it. It's not, I think that's where things went wrong for him. And again, I don't know what was said. I don't know what happened in these meetings, but I do know that at the NFL Combine, it started to kind of take a really drastic turn. And that's just what I've been told, is that it's the grit, it's the mentality that isn't all there for Deon Walker, and that's why teams are not as high on him at this point in the draft. All right. Let's finish it off with this one. What are the odds Steelers trade up to take Sheduer? What does the trade look like? I don't think the odds are very high. I look at Sheduer Sanders as a guy that has a decent shot to fall to 21, not a great shot. I wouldn't even say 50%, but in the realm of guy was going to go first a couple of months ago, those chances have grown. What would it take? Where would they go? Let's say hypothetically they do trade up for him. I think this is fun. You'd have to go to 8. You'd have to make a move to 8. That would be, they're not going to 2. They're not going to surpass the Giants and trade with the Browns. That's not happening. They'd have to go to 8. You'd have to get past Vegas, New York, and Cleveland. And New York's on the list, or Vegas is on the list, but I've been told that Vegas isn't very high on Sheduer. They want Ashton Genty real bad. Don't blame them. I think you're giving up to go to 8. This year's first, next year's first, and next year's second or third. Maybe a third and a fourth would get the job done. But you're giving up minimum of 2 first-round picks and some. You're going up 13 spots. The Kansas City Chiefs went up 17 to get Patrick Mahomes, but they went to 10, which is different. And those 2 spots big. You get a double-digit pick compared to a single-digit pick, whole of the world. That they'd go up, that they would go up to 8, surpass the Saints. I'm thinking you're giving up 2 firsts and a second, or 2 firsts, a third, and a fourth. That's what I think. Egyptian Roughneck, so sick of Watt and Minka hate, it should be disrespectful that offenses are doing everything they can to game plan against them. I think, and this is a good way to end this, I don't think TJ Watt deserves any criticism at all. Even if he got taken out of the games last year, I think I have full confidence he's going to figure it out. Minka, I think, started off really strong last year, died down quite a bit by the end of it. And I don't know if it's because other players were trying to play hero ball and he was trying to make up for that hero ball, which could be the case, could definitely be the case. Or if it's the fact that Minka is just too all over the place and there's not enough support around him, or if Minka's too all over the place and needs to be less all over the place. I don't know. I am less high on Minka than I am TJ Watt for sure. I still think I'm keeping Minka. I still think I have faith Minka works out, but I'm not 100% sold that he's going to become Minka of 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And that worries me because you need that splash and the Steelers don't have it. Minka's supposed to be that splash. You know, you have the hard hitters. You have Deshaun Elliott. You have Joey Porter Jr. You need turnovers. You need Minka Fitzpatrick to play Minka ball. Again, I got faith he's going to turn it around. I'm not totally out on Minka. Not even close. I'm not even a sliver out on TJ Watt. But when it comes to Minka, this is a big year for him. That's all I'm going to say. In terms of just his perspective across the league, I think this is a big year for him. And shout out to Carl Spackler. 2 months already. Shout out to all our members. If you're not a member, you could become one by hitting the link in the description below. Make sure to call in on Wednesdays. We have a great time on Wednesdays, and it's a blast. Shout out to all our members. Shout out to all our super chatters. With that said, we're heading out of here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to me on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check me out anywhere you get your podcast. Go hit those audio downloads on Apple Podcasts and give me that 5-star review, please. Begging you guys. And as always, find all of my work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. One more time, shout out to Terry Bradshaw for saving a group of passengers in a plane today, which is awesome. And shout out to Joe Flacco. Welcome back to the AFC North. What it means to the Pittsburgh Steelers, I mean, I don't think we know yet. With that said, guys, everybody enjoy a beautiful weekend in the Berg, and I will be back on Monday. Until then, it's a good one outside. Go enjoy it. Peace.